Call to order the LAFCo meeting of June 1st, 2020 at 9:02. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this meeting. We're again virtual. We'll see what happens as we move forward in the future. I'd like to ask the clerk to administer the roll call, please.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Can.
Wonderful. Commissioner Orth.
Here.
Commissioner McCowan.
Here.
Commissioner Brown.
Here.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Here.
Commissioner Huff.
Here.
Commissioner Ignacio.
Here.
Commissioner Winkle.
Here.
And I believe that is it. We have a quorum.
Okay, it sounds like we do. So in response to the COVID-19 pandemic emergency, our meeting, as you know, today is being held remotely by video and teleconference. Public viewing is via the live stream video link, which is available on the county's YouTube channel. The link is noted on our agenda and on the LAFCo website. All commissioners and staff are participating remotely through Zoom. We ask that all participants be on mute when not speaking. We've established procedures for public input by email and teleconference with directions noted at the top of the agenda. Any public calling in wishing to speak during the public comment periods will be placed in a virtual waiting room and called upon in turn. To help us accurately record today's meetings and actions, we'll employ the following points of order. The chair will call on each commissioner individually for comment and discussion in an orderly fashion. Commissioners making motions are asked to state their name for the record. Staff will be asked if any public comment has been received during each item. So all written and emailed comments to be read into the record should be under 500 words in length. All written comments will be posted on our website if we receive it the day of the meeting under the agenda following the meeting. We have received public correspondence that was attached to the agenda. All call-in participants will be allowed to enter the meeting one at a time, asked to state their name for the record, and offered the opportunity to address the commission for up to 3 minutes. All actions taken by the commission requiring a vote will be conducted by roll call. So before we go to public expression, I'll ask, is Commissioner Ward on now?
He is not called in.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll move on to public expression. This is a time for any member of the public to address the commission on any matter not on the agenda, but within the commission's area of jurisdiction. Comments on any item that is listed on the agenda should be given at the time that item is discussed by the commission. Staff, do we have anyone for public comment, or have we received any correspondence or telephone calls?
We have not received any correspondence related to this item. We have 3 public participants for item 5A. Okay,
thank you. Moving on, we'll go to our consent. There are 3 items on the consent calendar. 3A is the approval of the April 6, 2020 regular meeting summary with the requested revisions. 3B is approval of the May 4th, 2020 regular meeting summary. And 3C is approval of the May claims and financial report. So, commissioners, will go down the line and ask for any comment that you may have. Commissioner Orth.
No comment on this, but I would just note that alternative Winkle is a voting member for this meeting until Mr. Ward appears.
Thank you so much for pointing that out. Mr. Winkle, you're on. So I will have you on my listing.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Gonzalez,
No comment.
Commissioner Huff,
No comments.
Commissioner Ignacio,
Comment on, I believe, item 1, page 5 of 268. At the bottom, it has the poll that we took, and it lists that the results were 7-3 in favor. There's only 9 members attending at that meeting, so I'd just like that to be reflected correctly, that it would be 6-3. Other than that, no comment. Good job.
thank you, sir. Staff, did you take note of that?
I did. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner McCowan,
No comment.
Commissioner Winkle.
No comment.
Okay, thank you, sir. I'd like to ask for a motion and a second, please.
Move that, this is Commissioner Ignacio moving that the consent calendar be adopted and passed.
Second by McCowan.
So we have a motion and a second. And staff, did you take note of who made the motion and the second?
Yes, I did.
So please conduct a roll call vote.
Okay. Commissioner McCowan,
Yes.
Commissioner Huff,
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez,
Yes.
Commissioner Ignacio,
Yes.
Commissioner Orth,
Yes.
Commissioner Winkle,
Yes.
Chair Brown.
Yes,
Thank you. The motion passes unanimously.
thank you so much. Moving forward on item number 4, it's a public hearing. It's on the final budget and work plan for fiscal year 2020-2021. I would like to go over the procedures of a public hearing. I will open the public hearing. Staff will do a presentation. There'll be questions by the commissioners. Then we'll go to public comment. It will then come back to the commission with staff response. All commissioners can ask of both the public that is spoken and also staff any questions that they have. Then no motion will be entertained until the public hearing has been closed. So I'm going to open the public hearing, and I'd like to ask staff, has proper notice been given?
Yes, proper notice was given. I'd also like to announce that Commissioner Ward has entered the meeting.
Welcome, Commissioner Ward. Is he on?
Commissioner Ward?
I think you're on mute. Okay, we'll go forward.
Okay.
So I would like to have the presentation of this public hearing item by staff.
Thank
You know what I forgot to ask? Oh, I guess I did. That all correspondence or telephone calls, written comments have been received and posted.
Yes, they have.
Okay, thank you. Please go forward.
Thank you. Following two workshops and a public hearing, the Commission adopted a proposed budget and work plan for fiscal year 2020-2021 during its May 4th regular meeting. The distribution to the agencies was a budget of $161,650, funded by $150,000 in apportionment fees, with the remainder being drawn from reserves. There have been significant increases in membership fees as well as our insurance premium that increased our rates by 174% for the next fiscal year. Staff did speak with our insurance representatives regarding Commissioner Ward's request to research the possibility of reducing the insurance coverage. However, they do not offer a reduced coverage plan, so the minimum is $2.5 million coverage, which we currently hold. Recognizing the financial impact the COVID emergency is having on our member agencies and LAFCo, we made reductions elsewhere in our budget to keep the overall operating costs substantially the same as fiscal year 2019-20. In doing so, we assumed continuing remote meetings for the first 6 months of the new fiscal year, which will result in a cost savings in meeting mileage reimbursements and stipends. It also assumes no commissioner or staff attendance to the Cal-LAFCo conference. As previously noted, that conference is still being planned for October. However, recognizing the fiscal impact of the COVID emergency on our member agencies, we've proposed no participation in the conference this year. No agency or public comments have been received as of this morning. Staff is recommending adoption of Resolution 19-2004, approving the proposed budget and work plan as the final budget and work plan for fiscal year 2020-2021, with an operations budget of $161,650 and apportionment of $150,000, and also direction to distribute the final budget and work plan to affected agencies and the county auditor.
Thank you very much, commissioners. Any questions or comments? We'll start with Commissioner Orth.
No comments. Ready to move the resolution.
Commissioner Ward.
Yes, good morning, Madam Chair. I just got on a few minutes ago. I was on hold and could not talk, so I missed the minutes and whatnot. So I was going to bring up a point of order. I would think that we want to talk about the legal counsel as that would be an increase. If we approve the budget before that, then it'd be automatically increasing the increases to the legal counsel discussion we'll have later. But I don't have any specific issues with the budget at this point.
Ms. Hinman, do you want to respond, please?
The way that the contract for legal services is worded, Commissioner Ward is correct that if a change in the budget is adopted, then that inherently changes the amount of the contract for legal services.
Madam Chair, Commissioner McCowan here.
Commissioner McCowan?
Thank you. I would suggest we proceed, and then when we get to the legal services item, based on our discussion, if we need to go back and revisit budget approval, maybe we could then do that. Just a suggestion on how to move forward.
Thank you. Commissioner Ward?
Yeah, that'd be fine. Not that we were going to change anything. I just thought it would be appropriate to have it before the budget, but Mr. McCowan's suggestion is fine with me.
Okay, because we have opened the public hearing. Any other comments? Commissioner Ward?
No, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Gonzalez?
I just wanted to thank staff for the attention to detail and for sharpening the pencils and taking through the budget, I guess in deference to all the agencies.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Huff?
No comment.
Commissioner Ignacio?
No comment.
Commissioner McCowan?
No comment.
Alternate Commissioner Winkle?
No comment.
Okay. Then we will bring it back. Final comments by staff?
No further comments.
Okay, then I'm going to close the public hearing, close the public hearing. I'll entertain a motion.
I'm ready to so move. Resolution 2019, this is Commissioner Orth, 2004, the final budget and work plan for fiscal year 2020-21.
Do we have a second?
This is Commissioner Huff. I'll second the motion.
Thank you. Clerk, we have a motion and a second.
Okay.
Any other discussion, commissioners? Hearing none, please conduct the roll call vote.
All right. Can you hear me again? Just to make sure.
We can.
Okay, great. Thank you. Commissioner Ignacio,
Yes.
Commissioner McCowan,
Yes.
Commissioner Orth,
Yes.
Commissioner Huff,
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez,
Yes.
Commissioner Winkle.
Yes.
He will not be voting because
Okay.
Mr. Ward's here.
All right, thank you. I was not quite sure on that one. Commissioner Ward.
Yes.
All right, and Chair Brown.
Yes.
All right, the motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. Okay, moving on, we do have a workshop item. This will be our second time to discuss the Mendocino City Community Service District Municipal Service Review and Sphere of Influence Update. We discussed it previously at our May meeting, but the district was not in attendance. So we wanted to be able to hold that over. I know we have had correspondence. One came in early this morning that was sent by staff. So we will get to those in a minute. But I want to start off with, and we do have the district in attendance today, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And I do want to note there for everyone that's on the line for this workshop that the final public hearing on it may not be held until August 3rd. And the reasoning for that is we may be canceling the July meeting, and that is an item later on our agenda. But let us begin. I'd like to request staff to do their presentation, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Today's workshop is a continuation of the May 4th workshop on the Mendocino City Community Services District Draft Municipal Service Review and Sphere of Influence Update. We received a number of public comments prior to today's meeting, which, as noted, was provided to the Commission and posted on the website. Those received in writing have been provided to the Commission and the District by email. We also have several members of the public who wish to speak to the item today and have and are in the waiting room available at the appropriate time. I'd like to thank the District's Attorney, Mr. Jim Jackson, for participating in the workshop today. He has joined the meeting to be available on behalf of the District. At this time, I'll turn it over to our analyst, Larkin Filer, for presentation.
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. Since the May workshop, we've made several revisions to the draft study, and I'll go over them one by one. We revised Figure 2-1A to add the Road 500D area to the Area of Interest designation and confirmed that the irregular shaped parcel east of Burley Lane is accurately depicted. We added Figure 2-1B to show the 3 municipal water companies within and 1 north of the district boundary and show state park land. We noted the municipal water companies and included a link to the 2018 Municipal Water Company LAFCo study prepared per AV 54. We added information on the statutes and process to appoint vacant district board of directors seats. We corrected the Mendocino Community Center leases Friendship Park in the school district, updated the disadvantaged unincorporated community analysis based on new 2018 U.S. Census Bureau data for the Mendocino census designated place and 2 adjacent census tract block views. We updated information on the district's grandfathered out-of-agency wastewater service to Russian Gulch State Park. We added Table 3.1 for the district's estimated wastewater population served daily. We added information regarding the lawsuit between the district and Mr. Combs. We also updated the tourist population information for groundwater based on full lodging facilities. We revised MSR determinations 1 and 6 with updated information, removed prior determination 13 with outdated staff transition information. We added determination 12, recommending the district and the property owners on Road 500D and North Lansing Street work together regarding potential wastewater service. We added determination 37 to recognize that district staff has been very responsive and helpful throughout this process. We also expanded the description of the district's 2008 sphere. We revised the Road 500D study area information to note documentation received regarding failing septic systems and corrected the number of parcels between the district boundary and Road 500D area. We updated the coterminous sphere recommendation information to add policy 10.1.4.A consistency, and we carried over revisions in the MSR determinations to the SOI update determination. In addition, there were 4 questions addressed in the staff report. Under question 1, we included information on the district's authority to provide water and groundwater management services according to LAFCo determination in 2005 per SB 135 and as reaffirmed in the district's 2008 MSR SOI update. Under question 2, we clarified that the district has sufficient statutory authority to provide groundwater replenishment as part of providing groundwater management services if they've actually provided that aspect of service. Under question 3, we briefly evaluated the district's recent public hearing process, found the district conducted a lengthy public process between December 2019 and May of this year, and can further evaluate public noticing as directed. Under question 4, we included information from the district that connecting to the 4-inch pressure main from Russian Gulch State Park is not an option, and wastewater service to Road 500D and North Lansing Street would require an engineering feasibility study. Related to this, Mr. Powers is working with State Park regarding utilizing the existing 4-inch pressure main and has requested that additional information be added to the study when available. And he's also requested more information about why improvements to the district's wastewater system treatment plant might be needed to annex this area when excess capacity exists. In addition, multiple public comments have been received regarding the district's groundwater management authority, hydrological modeling, and groundwater allotment regulations. And finally, we are requesting guidance to further direct staff resources on this effort as we've reached the estimated budget for preparing the draft study and still need to conduct the public hearing process. And that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. And I neglected to ask earlier in the meeting, is Mr. Brown, Scott Brown, on the phone?
Yes, he is present today.
Yes,
Okay.
I'm present. I just was on mute.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. And I apologize for not recognizing you earlier. Thank you. So, commissioners, do you have questions and also maybe responses with the revisions and additions as noted by staff? So I will do roll call, so to speak, among all the commissioners, and then we'll go to public comment. If anyone has a further question after going through the line of commissioners, please feel free to come back on and ask to be heard. So we'll begin. Commissioner Gonzalez.
I guess regarding question number 2 on page 28, I guess could be for Scott Brown, could be for staff. I guess the line where, however, if it has not actually been providing the service, then the commission could determine it is a new or different function or class of service. do we know for sure whether or not they provided that service? And that's my question.
Staff?
Commissioner Brown, my understanding is that the district has not specifically provided groundwater replenishment as part of the groundwater management services, but that is something that we can further investigate.
Okay. Any further questions, Commissioner?
No, I guess that just was kind of left it hanging there for me as far as whether or not, it sounds like they had the statutory authority to do it, but unless, and then we left it with the unless there. So and maybe we get public comment, maybe somebody has.
Okay.
If the service has not actually been provided, then the question is whether or not that's a new class or function of the agency. And that's a commission determination, whether or not that exists and whether it requires LAFCo approval.
Please state your name for the record.
Scott Brown.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Gonzalez?
Yes, Gonzalez here.
Okay, any further questions of Mr. Brown?
No, that was it.
Thank you, sir. Moving on, Commissioner Huff?
I have no questions. Looks like the staff well researched all the questions that were sent in by the public.
Okay, moving on, Commissioner Ignacio?
The only thing is I support Commissioner Gonzalez's question. I have the same question, so I won't repeat it, and I'll look forward to an answer. So thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner McCowan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just kind of for the record, so the questions as stated on page 28, I believe the answers, and I don't need an explanation, just do I have it right? But the answer to question number 1 was yes. Question number 2, no. Question number 3, yes. Is that correct, Mr. Brown?
Well, I think the state that 2 says no is technically correct, but the answer is much more qualified because it's the wrong question. The question is, does the district need any other approval to provide groundwater replenishment?
Well, the answer, if I understand it, is the district has sufficient statutory authority. So they don't need to form. Go ahead.
No, they do have the statutory authority as do CSDs, but when a district goes to provide a function it's legally authorized to provide, but has not actually provided before, that is an act that can trigger LAFCo approval before it can proceed.
Okay, so they would need LAFCo approval to activate the latent power, is that right?
Yes.
But they do or do not need to form a water replenishment district. It sounds like the answer to that would be no.
That is correct. They have the power to provide the service in their organization as it stands.
Thank you. And then number 4, the answer was yes, there are other technical and feasibility issues, some of which are pretty significant. And then I had a question relating to identifying the areas of interest, and does the district support including the specified areas as areas of interest?
Madam Chair, this is...
Yeah, that was to staff, so please.
This is Analyst Byler. Would you like us to bring the representative from the district over to answer any questions or at this time?
Well, it just seems that we would have a discussion with the district. Do they support identification of the areas of interest? It just seems like it would be logical to have their opinion on that, I would think, because potentially that could lead to an expansion of the area in which service is provided, although the purpose of it could simply be to be able to comment on potential land use changes.
Yes, that's a very good question. The Road 500D area was identified as area of interest based on staff level review, and that was just to identify it for increased coordination opportunity. It was not necessarily requested by the district.
So maybe before we go forward with final action, we could seek the district's opinion.
Certainly.
So can Mr. Jackson be brought in out of the waiting room to respond, please?
Yes, he can be brought in.
This is Executive Officer Hinman. He has been brought in and is on mute at the moment. Just a point of clarification that there will be no action taken on this item today. This is a workshop item.
Correct.
Understood. I wasn't aware he was available to answer questions, so thank you.
Okay, he is available in the meeting now.
Thank you. Mr. Jackson,
Yes, ma'am.
please state your name for the record.
Yeah, Jim Jackson. I'm legal counsel for the MCCSD.
Okay, do you have a response?
I've been following you on YouTube, and the two questions I heard concerned water replenishment and the areas of interest. Regarding water replenishment, the district has authority under the water code, but it has never exercised that authority, largely because they've not been able to find a source of water, either to provide water service or to replenish water. So it would be a latent power, within the meaning of the LAFCo statute. As far as the area of interest, that Road 500 area is not contiguous with the MCCSD boundary. There's that portion of North, what's the name of that street? Anyway, some years back, we were contacted by Mr. Powers with the similar request, and I know the former superintendent polled the property owners along North Lansing Street, and there was very little interest in annexation to the district other than Mr. Powers. So I don't know that the district has any active, interest in the area, but there's certainly at least one property owner who has an interest in the district.
Commissioner McCowan, any further comment?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So potentially between today and when we do take final action, the district might have a discussion among themselves. Do they support inclusion of the areas of interest or not? It just seems like it would be appropriate for the commission to have that information.
Okay. I'll certainly ask the chair to put that on the agenda for the next meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Any further questions or comment, Commissioner McCowan?
No, thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. Moving on, Commissioner Orth.
The last discussion pretty well covered what my interest would be, whether to designate these areas of interest. I do believe the district would need to support that. And otherwise, I think the report is very thorough. And thank you for answering the questions from the last workshop as thoroughly as you have. Thank you. I have no further questions.
Thank you, Commissioner Orth. Commissioner Ward.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Questions for staff. On the questions on page 28, they're in italics. Who responded to those questions?
That is a good question. So it was a combination. So for questions 1 and 2, those were developed in-house by staff in coordination with Counsel. And then questions 3 and 4 were based on information provided by the district.
Okay, thank you. I had 4 questions on May 8th after our last board meeting that regarding one of the public presenters, Steve Gomes. And one of the questions I don't think was answered, but I'll ask it again. Did the meeting of 12/4/19 and 1/9/20 for the Mendocino board voted not to pursue for a year the formation of a water replacement district actually happened? And if so, what happens next? Do you have an answer for that?
Is that a question for Jim Jackson with the district?
Be a question for, first of all, originally my question was to our staff.
Okay.
But maybe Jim Jackson could answer it as well.
I'd be happy to. The event you just described never occurred, so I'm a bit at a loss. There was never any decision not to pursue water replenishment for 1 year. I'm not quite sure where that came from.
It came from a letter from Steve Gomes.
Yeah.
And then we also received a letter this morning from Mr. Gomes stating the same thing. So I just wondered why he keeps bringing something up that maybe never happened then.
I have no idea why he keeps bringing up things that never happened, but that's the fact.
Okay. Well,
and I believe he will be part of the public that's speaking today.
Yep.
Okay, very good. I think that's all, Madam Chair, that I had at this time. There was a lot of reading, obviously, and again, staff did an excellent job, and I'm still going through it as we go on. But thank you. That's all for now.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Ward. Now, Ms. Hinman, I'd like to go to public comment.
Okay, we will bring in, I believe this is Barbara Reed, Mr. Gomes, and Paul Clark. They have entered the meeting.
Okay, we're unmuted. Turn that off.
Ms. Reed?
Yes.
You have been entered the meeting.
Okay, I'm sorry, I was on mute. As each public member comes on to comment, please state your name for the record.
Well, this is Barbara Reed. My comments were in my letter, which I'm sure that everybody received. Does anybody have any questions for me? Other than that, I'm going to let my comments and my letter stand. Now, Steve Gomes may have a comment.
Yeah, this is Steve Gomes. I was listening to the, sound like number 2 on your findings list there for the staff. So I couldn't hear. So are you trying to say that the district has complied with Water Code Section 10702 and is authorized by law to provide water service, which is a prerequisite for them to have any groundwater management under those water codes? Is there an answer from staff or anyway?
Madam Chair, did you want me to answer that?
Yes, please.
Okay. This is Analyst Tyler. So what was provided in the staff report was based on a determination made by LAFCo in 2005. At the time, the CSD law was being updated, and so at that time, staff identified that water and groundwater management services were authorized powers for the district, and then that was additionally reaffirmed in the 2008 MSR SOI update. So in regards to activating latent powers, we have identified previously that those are powers the district is able to exercise.
Okay, but that doesn't necessarily, so the district has never been determined that they are providing water services as defined by Water Code Section 515, which is selling and metering water for delivery, and be it a water replenishment district that they were authorized to be. So, I mean, that's going to be a contentious issue for the future. And it's our purpose to try not to have any more litigation on this subject, but we believe that see under formation that private property rights to existing water from private wells, overlying water rights, have been totally abused in this situation. And so we were hoping that LAFCo could make at least a final determination as to whether or not existing wells that were in place prior to 1980 or 85 or and prior to the existence of the district itself should be governed by a sewer district that has more powers to control private water wells than the Department of Water Resources itself. So I think that's the issue for us today. And I did make some comments on their adoption of their ordinances. They used 2006, 2004 studies when those have been superseded basically by studies that I've given you in a package at the last meeting from Kennedy and Jenks, dated 2008, and with recommendations and conclusions that say that the underlying groundwater situation is isolated into 5 separate zones, and yet they apply this ordinance to all zones, even though they're disconnected and there's no contributing factor from one zone to the other. And, we had a whole court trial on this, and, that information needs to be useful at some time. So that's my comments for today. Thank you.
This is Barbara Reed again. Could I just make one quick comment? They may have been giving the powers of the replenishment district, but that's to provide water. They don't provide water. They are taking the water, or not taking, but they're just metering our private wells, which the state and the county never did before 1987. So if they have the replenishment district powers, shouldn't they be providing water in order to use those powers?
Thank you. And we'll go to the next speaker, I believe Mr. Clark, and then we will have comment back on the questions you've asked, Ms. Reed.
Paul Clark here. I guess I appreciate the information that's being put out today. I still have not in my own mind been convinced that the property owners at some point voted to give up any water rights to the MCCSD because property owners had to vote to go into the district. But I would love to have someone provide to me when the property owners themselves actually voted to join the district for water services. To date, I have not seen that. I've only been told that it happened, but I have not been able to document that. And I'm available for any questions also. Thank you.
Commissioners, do you have any questions of Mr. Clark? It appears not. Staff, do you have comment? Somebody needs to go on mute. We're hearing music.
Madam Chair, this is Analyst Filer. In regard to Mr. Gillum's comments, he has raised important issues. I don't know that within the scope of our study that we will be able to resolve them, but we're certainly happy to work further with Mr. Gomes and address them as best we can. In regard to Ms. Breed's comment, I just want to make the distinction that the powers that we have identified that the district has are for groundwater management, and we're not necessarily, that does not necessarily mean that replenishment powers are a part of that. So I think there's a distinction there. And then also it is my understanding that there was a vote, there was an election in 1985 for voters within the district to add water service, which was approved, which is my understanding, and we can look into that further as directed by the commission.
Well, first of all, it wasn't for that. It was for the...
Okay, somebody needs to be on mute. We can hear talking in the background. Okay, basically, I'd like to hear from Mr. Jackson again, please.
Jim Jackson here.
Do you have further comment?
I think your analyst is correct in her statements. There was an election back in 1985, and I don't really have any further comments unless any of the commissioners have any questions.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So do we have further public comment, staff?
We do have Mr. Powers waiting in the waiting room, and I can bring him in.
Please do so.
Correct. In her statements, was elected.
Mr. Powers?
Yes. Yes.
You are in the meeting?
Yes, and state your name for the record, sir.
Edward Powers.
Madam Chair, Mr. Powers noted previously he didn't have any comments to provide. He just wanted to be available to answer any questions.
Okay.
Excuse me. I do have, there were a couple of issues that came up that I probably should address. I don't know, am I on now?
Yes, we can hear you.
And there was a question on the utilization of the 4-inch pressure line that runs from Russian Gulch to the sewer district. And I'm in the process of, we've requested through the public records request to get information and see what would be necessary to utilize that line. They've asked for a 90-day extension to the public records request. And so far we haven't received any of the documents. I also have asked for the documents, and maybe Mr. Jackson could address this on whether or not Russian Gulch is actually in the district or how they are served for the wastewater without being in the district if they're not. And the other thing I would address would be, I've spoken to numerous people on 500D, and it was mentioned that I was the only one requesting this. Initially, that was correct. That was, as I believe Mr. Jackson mentioned several years ago. But at this point, there are a number of homes on 500D, and I suspect all of them would be willing and would like to hook up to the sewer district. But I will work at trying to confirm that. I don't know if the next I can have that information by the next meeting of the sewer district. And I haven't spoken to the people on Lansing. I believe that's going to require a separate lift station. And so I think the main question would be whether or not the 4-inch pressure line could be utilized and possibly turned over to the sewer district, at least from 500D to the lift station on Geezer. We're still talking to state parks to try to see if that's a possibility. So anyway, if there's any questions of me, I'm happy to answer.
Commissioners? No, sir. Thank you, Mr. Powers.
I have a question.
Oh, and please state your name.
Commissioner Orth. Relative to areas of interest, the financial impact of developing the infrastructure and a study to do so would be very costly, but a necessary item over the next 5-year period to answer the questions the commenters have raised. And I would just note that once the actual cost per connection is determined, it can have a big impact on those who support or do not support an annexation. That's my only comment.
Thank you, Commissioner Orth. Very good comment on that. Well taken. Commissioner?
Hello, this is Ed Powers. May I speak?
No, sir. Because this is only comment for the commissioners. Any other commissioners with comment? Hearing none, at the discretion of the chair, Mr. Powers, very quickly, if you'd like to make a final comment.
Well, in terms of the cost to the sewer district, I'm sure there will be some costs in putting in a lift station. However, I think those costs would partly be offset by the revenue that would be generated by the services provided to 500D and possibly Lansing as well. And the other aspect, I think when you have all of the 500D septic systems that have failed and some presently in failure, and there's an existing 4-inch line running in front of all of these homes, I think it's a difficult position to take that those homes shouldn't be connected up to a sewer district that has excess capacity.
Thank you, sir, for your comment and response. Okay. It's back to the commission now for further discussion. So I'd like to call on each commissioner. We'll start with Commissioner Ignacio.
No comment at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner McCowan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm curious about the interplay, and this refers to the letter from Stephen Gomes, Barbara Reed, and Paul Clark. And, you know, I probably should have raised this earlier, but at your discretion, I do have a question of the signatories to that letter.
I believe they were 3 separate letters.
Well, I'm looking at one that was signed by all three.
Oh, from the previous workshop?
Yes.
Okay. Staff, can we bring them out of the waiting room?
Yes, just a moment, please.
Thank you.
Okay, they are available in the meeting.
Should be governed by a water.
Please. I don't know if someone's getting ready to respond, but you do need to enter your name into the record. And Commissioner McCowan evidently has a question and maybe some more. So if you have the question, please enter your name into the record before you respond.
Different than that.
By studies that I've given you in the package of the last meeting in 2002 with recommendations and conclusions.
We're unmuted.
That the underlying groundwater situation.
Can you turn that off?
Within the 5 separate zones, and yet they apply this
Hello?
ordinance to all zones. Even though they're connected and there's no,
It's still on there.
Contributing factor.
We're on
one zone to the other. And,
But if he's got that on and they unmute.
Hang on 1 minute, please, because there's private conversations going on, and I believe Mr. Gomes is speaking. And if he could speak up a little bit louder, that would be great. So, Mr. Gomes, is that you? And please go forward.
Yeah, Madam Chair, are we online now?
We can hear you, yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, in regard to the idea that these meetings and votes never occurred, you should have copies of the minutes of these meetings. On December 4th, the board intended to not pursue the water plans with a quorum of 3 members. And then again, they appointed a member to the board, and on January 9th, with a 4-member board, they voted 2-2 to not pursue these water plans. And according to the water code sections that govern this, the public, if they would have in fact passed the intent to include these water plans, to further these water plans, then the public had to gather 250 signatures and protest, and then the whole water plan situation would be not to be considered for 1 year. But the board represents the public when they vote, and they voted to not intend to do this on those 2 meetings. And then consequently, one board member left that voted no, and then a new member was installed through the process of the Board of Supervisors appointed them. And that's in your package today, that Jim Sullivan was voted down at a meeting to not be on the board. Without any public notice, the district proceeded to put somebody on the board. And then they had 3 votes here in the last 10 days or so. Now we have these water studies which are not attached to current scientific studies, and nothing was available for the public to review at any of these hearings. So
if I may, Madam Chair.
Yes.
Yes, go ahead, Commissioner McCowan.
So I'll kind of put it into a nutshell here. So what specific action do you believe LAFCo should take in regards to the issues you've raised?
Well, for today's issues, I think that they're just out of compliance with the accessibility to the public over these meetings. They have no bylaws to govern their voting when they have a situation where they made a final decision by vote. So at the January 9th meeting, we had a face-to-face meeting. That was before we had to isolate. So the public, you know, being present made a difference on that vote. And we've had
So
no
on
meeting.
January, if I may, on January 9th, is that
Yeah.
when you say they voted 2-2 not to pursue?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So I'll have a comment later and question for legal counsel. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner McCowan, do you have any further questions of Ms. Reed or Mr. Clark?
No, thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. Thank you, and we will go forward. Commissioner Winkle, did you have any comment or questions?
I do not.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Orth, any further comments or questions?
Not at this time.
Okay. Commissioner Ward.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I brought up the the December 4th and January 9th meeting as well. And the CSD attorney said that that did not happen. So I'm be interesting to see what Commissioner McCowan has to ask the legal counsel on that, because we have maybe a conflicting story there. In addition to that, I would like, how are we going to proceed after today? Is this going to come back in August? Are we going to receive another 400-page workshop draft again, or is there just going to be some of the changes? That's one question. The second question is, I'd like to see some of these questions answered from the public, specifically Mr. Gomes' letter regarding this. I don't want to get too far out of our scope here, but there is some issues that I think need to be resolved. And lastly, I'd like to see if we could do whatever we can to help Mr. Powers pursue annexation to help out with those failing septic systems. I think that's real important, at least it's important to me. So other than that, that's all I have, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Gonzalez?
I was going to say none, but I kind of agree with Commissioner Orth and Ward regarding Mr. Powers, at least whether it be some roadmap so he or others there would know whether they're in line to get annexed or there's a vehicle for it. That's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Huff, any other comments or questions?
Just one, echo Commissioner Ward's regarding the 500D, getting something done for those people. I kind of feel like that's well within our wheelhouse and something that we should support. Being familiar with that area, it's essentially cliffside houses. They don't have a whole lot of room for their septic systems, and if their septic systems are failing, then that means it's dumping out the side of the cliff into the ocean. So I think it would be best for everybody to see something like that happen down the road. I understand that there's a lot of engineering research that's going to have to go into that, but as long as it's getting moved forward.
Okay, thank you. I think we've gone through our list of commissioners, but does any other commissioner have a comment or further comment or a question based on the discussion?
Madam Chair, I do have a question of legal counsel.
Go ahead, Commissioner McCowan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's more kind of a question. Do I have this right? So members of the public are saying the district voted not to pursue a certain course of action, but I understood them to say the vote was 2-2. So that being the case, the vote not to pursue that course of action failed, and the district in effect took no action unless there was a corresponding motion. Later, with 3 members present, they voted a different way. So, so do I have it right that the 2-2 vote actually was not an action? The motion in front of the board at that time would have failed on a 2-2 vote on January 9th.
I would, of course, not knowing what their bylaws say, I can't absolutely confirm, but normally a 2-2 vote is no action. Unless it's for example, an appeal, in which case the no action has the effect of affirming the action on the previous decision.
Right. And then this would be maybe for the district attorney or for staff, but the comment was made, the district has no bylaws. And is there a response to that? And if they don't have them, do they need them, or do they just proceed pursuant to statute?
I think that, Commissioner McCowan, is a proper question of Mr. Jackson. Is Mr. Jackson still available?
Yes, Madam Chair, I'm still on the phone, and this is the first time I've heard any complaint about the district bylaws. And to be honest, I assume they have bylaws, but the organization was founded in the early 1970s, well before my time. And at the conclusion of this meeting, I'm going to ask my superintendent if he can dig up the bylaws, because I don't believe I've ever seen them. And concerning the meeting that you were interested in, the December and January meetings essentially deadlocked because of the lack of 3 affirmative votes for any direction, which is why there were later votes on the groundwater management program, and it was ultimately readopted.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Anything else, Commissioner McCowan?
No, thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. And excuse me, I would like to remind all commissioners that LAFCo can make recommendations within the MSR and SOI. Having said that, I want to go to staff to see if they have any further comment. Then we're going to have to talk about, because the question was raised, that all funds have been expended for this MSR SOI, but yet we have to go into the public hearing process, which will accumulate more expense for LAFCo. So staff, please respond. Ms. Hinman.
I'll let Analyst Tyler respond.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, if I may, we did receive one written comment to be read aloud. Would this be an appropriate time to do so?
Oh, yes, I am so sorry. Thank you.
Oh, no problem. So as written, it reads, Dear Mendocino LAFCo, my firm represents Stephen L. Gomes, a homeowner within the geographic boundaries of the Mendocino City Community Services District, MCCSD. Mr. Gomes is deeply concerned that the MCCSD failed to ever obtain groundwater management authority from LAFCo. The MCCSD was only ever authorized to provide sewer and street lighting services. I filed a public records request with LAFCo last summer, and you had no record of the MCCSD ever obtaining any groundwater management authority. Moreover, Mr. Gomes is also concerned by a number of other facets of the MCCSD's actions, including having failed to comply with the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, having failed to strictly follow the Brown Act requirement that agendas be posted directly on the MCCSD's website homepage, and potential conflicts with interest arising from MCCSD directors also serving on municipal water companies located within the NCCSB's geographical boundaries. Respectfully submitted, Colin Morrow.
Thank
that
you.
Concludes the letter.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So we need to discuss now how we go forward. And one of the questions raised earlier by staff was the cost of the public hearing. So can you address that, please, Ms. Filer?
Madam Chair, part of the response to that is dependent on the scope of the additional issues that we need to research related to public comment. So it sounds like there is interest from the Commission to look further into the actions of the district related to the public hearing process, and also look into the issues raised on Road 500D related to wastewater service. Given that and needing to conduct public noticing and prepare the additional report, which, if there are additional public comments, the public hearing staff report will likely include those in the packet. But that is a determination by our executive officer. It could take anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000 additional dollars to finalize this process.
Thank you. Commissioners, any comment?
Madam Chair, this is Commissioner McCowan.
Yes, sir.
Well, I think that we ought to be minimizing costs going forward here. There's a lot of issues that have been raised, but part of it is maybe what are the correct protocols. So I agree with Commissioner Orth. Before staff goes down the road of identifying areas of interest, there should first be an affirmative interest by the district or the other entity that is being reviewed. I don't think this is something should be done simply on advocacy of the public or interest of staff. So, and as far as the areas in 500D, again, I think we need to hear from the district. What is their interest? Do they think they have capacity to serve outside their district? It's stated that they have capacity, but is everyone currently in the district being served? But again, my main thing is we shouldn't be, in terms of identifying an SOI or a sphere of influence, we shouldn't, or an area of interest, we shouldn't be going beyond what the district is interested in. We can shrink what they're interested in if we determine it's not appropriate, but I don't know that it's our place to expand what they're interested in unless it's contiguous to an identified duct, which this is not, is my understanding. And I don't think we need to look further into the actions of the district. I tend to think the record is now clear enough on that, unless someone can cite documented evidence to the contrary. So, you know, that's the only thing I think is undone here is what is the position of the district with regard to areas of interest. Thank you. No further comment.
Commissioner Orth?
I very much like our policy of areas of interest in that it can allow for a 5-year, as you know, we review these MSRs every 5 years. And during that 5-year period, it allows agencies to go through planning necessary to meet unmet needs that might be identified in the community. And that is why areas of interest allow for at least a discussion to move forward in a manner that brings out the facts, and as long as costs are covered in such a review. That's my comment.
Okay, thank you. Any other commissioners? Final comments?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Ward.
Yes, sir.
The only issue that I don't know if we ever come to a resolution, but it would be nice, would be whether there is a new or different function with regard to water that hasn't been used, that was originally brought up by other commissioners. So I'd like to see something on that next time around if we could. Other than that, that's it. Thanks.
Any other
if
commissioners?
I may, Madam Chair, to Commissioner Ward's last comment, I think we've identified that the district has particular latent powers, but they would need to come forward to LAFCo to activate them. I think
Correct.
that was clarified. And then as to areas of interest, I agree with Commissioner Orth that identifying an area of interest would allow the affected entity to be apprised and comment on potential land use changes. In this situation, we're talking about fully developed areas, as far as I know, with no further development potential that probably wouldn't be approved at the current density based on the constraints they face. But there they are, they exist. But there's no additional development to be had. So that, again, I think it would be up to the district. Do they want to see these areas identified as areas of interest or not? So again, I would say that's about the only additional information that we might be looking for.
Okay. Do others agree or disagree?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Huff.
Yes, sir.
I agree with Commissioner McCowan. I'm looking at page 1.1 and 1.2 of the MSR SOI, and 1.3 and 1.4 clearly lists out the sphere of influence and municipal service in this MSR what LAFCo looks at, and I feel like staff has hit all those points quite well. Anything else that's coming up, questions from the public, needs to be dealt with by other matters. I feel like they're out of LAFCo's wheelhouse, and if the public feels like they're having issues with how the meetings are performed or something, they need to follow that up with the grand jury or somebody else. I just feel like that's out of our wheelhouse. That and as far as the water portion, are they, we've identified that they are the appropriate agency to have that, and they do have latent powers, and if they want to do that, they should bring it before LAFCo. They should also, if they want to annex, they should and increase their sphere of influence, or just annex something in their sphere of influence. It should be up to them to come to us for it. Those are my only two comments.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Hearing no one else. Ms. Filer, do we feel we will need an extra 1,000 to 2,000 to complete the document, based on the comment of the commissioners to this point?
Madam Chair, it does sound like we are pursuing a more refined scope of addressing public comments. So the 1,000 may be sufficient. Again, I would defer to our executive officer if she has other thoughts, but beyond that, I think it may be a little bit more streamlined based on the comments of the commissioners.
Ms. Hinman?
Yes, just as
to clarify that the budget for work plans does not have a breakdown by agency. It's a kind of a lump sum for all of the projects that are identified in the work plan for that fiscal year. So there is sufficient budget moving forward to address this. However, our intent was to advise the Commission of the impacts to that budget, because in developing that line item for each fiscal year, we do an estimate for each of the work plan tasks. So there's no need to adjust the budget. This is a information for the Commission that we would be going, this will take a little more time than anticipated.
Thank you very much. Now, I feel that all that's been discussed today, that you have how to move forward, and I believe we will be waiting. Of course, it's to be decided yet if we cancel our July meeting, but we probably would not come back for the public hearing until August 3rd. So, Commissioners, any other comment? And then we'll move on to the next item.
Well, Madam Chair, unless there's objection, I would suggest that our direction to staff would be to move forward with the public hearing, with the only further action needed to verify with the district their position, excuse me, on the proposed areas of interest.
I believe staff took that into consideration when they responded back. Correct, staff?
That is correct, Madam Chair.
Correct.
Do you feel comfortable, Commissioner McCowan?
Oh, I feel comfortable with that, but I don't think we heard from a majority of the Commission. So that's why I say if there's no objection, that could be our direction.
I'll once again ask Commissioners, comment?
Madam Chair, Chair, Commissioner Ward, I agree.
Commissioner Orth?
Agreed.
Commissioner Gonzalez?
Agreed.
Commissioner Huff?
Yes.
Commissioner Ignacio?
Yes.
And I will say a yes as well. So is that sufficient, Commissioner McCowan?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Okay, that concludes that particular item in our workshop. And then I just want to direct staff, after we consider another item on our agenda, and that is 6B, cancellation of the July 6th meeting, that everyone involved receive information as to what's going to occur, whether we are having a July meeting or we're not. And that includes the public commenters as well. So, any other questions, staff?
No, and communicate with all the public commenters as to next steps.
Okay, thank you very much. Moving on to item number 6, this is matters for discussion and possible action. This is 6A, Legal Counsel Services Report. The Commission will receive a report on the current Legal Counsel Services Agreement and consider direction to staff regarding proposed changes to the level of service and billing rates, and to update the LAFCo fees accordingly. Staff, please give us a presentation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to keep folks on the same page, this staff report is on page 259 of your agenda packet. This item was placed on the agenda at the Commission's request and provides a summary of the current service agreement with our legal counsel, Mr. Scott Brown, who is participating in the meeting today. The staff report covers the proposed rate increase as well as the proposed increase in annual average service, which increases the hours from an average of 3 to 4 per month. Proposed increase is based on the average number of hours over the past year, as well as the increasingly complex issues that staff and the Commission will be addressing in the coming years. In February, the Commission approved an amendment to the Legal Services Agreement that added a clause providing for reimbursement at cost for Commission-designated special projects. The designation of special projects allows for legal counsel participation in some of our more complex projects without impacting the contractual limits of the agreement. The other means for recovering legal counsel costs is related to specific application processing. Our current fee agreement and indemnification state that LAFCo staff processing costs are charged and reimbursed on a time and expenses basis, including legal counsel fees. Until recently, it hasn't been necessary to bill an applicant for legal advice. However, the complexity of our recent applications have required legal advice that has exceeded the typical contractual limits. Staff is recommending an amendment to the Legal Services Agreement to clarify that clause, as well as an update to our fee schedule to reflect the current rates and a comprehensive review of our standard fee agreement language to ensure consistency. That concludes my staff report, and I'm happy to answer any questions, as well as Mr. Brown.
Okay, commissioners, I'll start the round. Commissioner Gonzalez.
I would support staff's recommendation.
Commissioner Huff.
I would support staff's recommendation also.
Commissioner Ignacio.
Staff has my support.
Commissioner McCowan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. One question I would have, so we have the average hours per month, and then, for instance, in a given month, let's say we increase the amount to 4 hours and only 2 hours are used. Do the 2 unused hours roll over for future use, which would seem equitable, since if we exceed the average, we would pay additional. If we don't, it seems like those hours could stay in the bank. Staff response to that.
This is Executive Officer Hanman. That is correct, and that's how it has been billed to date. That average is spread out over the entire year, and it is banked. So some months we do incur more than the current 3 hours, and some we do less.
And as long as we have banked hours to cover the hours in excess of the monthly average, we don't have to pay additional.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Alternate Commissioner Winkle.
He appears asleep.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Orth.
I support the staff report and note the last paragraph.
Commissioner Ward.
Thank you, Madam Chair. One of my big questions is, what is a special project? Is the Uyghur detachment a special project?
The intent of projects was to apply to more complex projects where there was not an applicant. Our fee schedule makes it clear that for applications, we can bill our staff and legal services time to the application. However, for example, should one of the sphere of influence studies require more time from legal counsel to work through some of the complex issues, we would not have a vehicle for billing our attorneys' time without that special project designation.
So there's a little break up there. So the Uyghur project was not a special project?
So that was a straight application.
That was a straight application. Therefore, we could not bill our attorneys' expenses for that?
Our fee schedule very clearly states that we can bill for staff and legal counsel time spent to an application, and that was signed as part of the fee agreement for the Uyghur application.
How's that been done?
We have submitted the bill to Ms. Wager, and I spoke with her on Friday, and she is sending in payment.
Okay. Could we get copies of those specific legal fees so we know what we're up against? Also, the public hearing on that issue, Scott Brown was on the phone for that whole hour or two. Is that getting billed to the Uyghur application as well?
I believe that was absorbed into our contractual amount with him, and was accommodated under the $600 per month.
Okay.
Other time that was spent specific on the Uyghur application has been billed, and I can send that copy of the invoice to the commissioners.
And would the City of Ukiah detachment be a special project?
The intent of the staff's recommendation to provide clarification in Mr. Brown's contract will make that more clear. But right now, we would be able to bill for our legal counsel's time because it is an application.
Okay, under your claims, you did discuss the issue with the detachment with Mr. Brown, so I would assume there would be some billing coming out to the City of Ukiah for that?
Yes, we did include that in billing to the city.
Okay, very good. I believe that's all I had on that. I appreciate you bringing this forward and clarifying it, because looking at amendment number 1 and amendment number 2, it was really confusing to understand those things. So I think this is a more appropriate way of doing it. I really don't like the idea that we have to approve a budget before, because we technically wouldn't be able to make any changes to his rates because the budget already approved it. But in the future, hopefully we can discuss those besides having it through a budget process. But thanks again for your work on this.
Thank you.
Okay. Did I go through the complete list of commissioners? I believe I did. Are there any other questions? I'd like to hear if there's any public comment, staff.
There are no members of the public waiting, and we did not receive any comments on this item.
And Madam Chair, I did have another comment.
Yeah, it's coming back to us in just a moment.
Okay.
So staff just responded. I don't know if you all heard, but there wasn't any public comment or anyone waiting to speak. Commissioner McCowan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So currently, we do bill for attorney time spent on applications. This would seem to cover some of the items that we anticipate would be coming forward. For instance, the detachment, if that moves forward. But we also have adopted a policy, I believe, that if any entity seeks to expand its current SOI, they would then be expected to pay for all costs associated with that, which could include our attorney working on the issue, could include environmental review that might need to be done. So first question, am I correct in those statements? And then I have one follow-up.
Staff?
I would have to look into that specific policy a little closer, Commissioner McCowan. We often spend quite a bit of time up front on an MSR and sphere update before we get to that point of discussion with the agency in question. So, for example, if we will be reviewing several agencies within the Ukiah Valley area. So that would be the Ukiah Valley Sanitation District, the City of Ukiah, and the Ukiah Valley Fire Protection District. in order to recoup some of those costs in the up front before we get to that point where a district asks for a change in their sphere boundary. A special project would be a way that we could recoup some of those legal fees.
Well, so that was my question. What would be examples of special projects? And from what you're saying, that would tend to cover a loophole, because I think it can be anticipated in some cases that although we're in preliminary discussions, we pretty much know that when the time comes to declare, there will be a request for an expansion of either their SOI or identifying areas of interest. And it just seems like we should cover ourselves so that we're not putting our legal bill for what could be extended discussions around these so-called special projects. So, you know, I would like to see us close that gap, because otherwise I could see us getting drug into somebody else's legal dispute and we're having to pay our attorney. And it just seems like that cost should go to whoever the acting entity is that is seeking the change that would then generate the additional legal fees. Maybe I didn't say that too clearly, but I'd like to pursue the actions stated in the final paragraph of the staff report.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Commissioner Ward.
Yes, I believe that Commissioner McCowan is correct. There was in our policies for legal fees for extension of SOIs, and I would certainly like to know that that is going to be covered in the future as well. And one last question. Scott Brown has been on our Zoom meetings the last 2 or 3. Is this going to continue every meeting that he will participate? Because that does take up some of our bank.
I believe that he should participate when we feel we're going to need him. I don't know if any other commissioners have an opinion. Commissioners?
This is Commissioner Gonzalez.
Go forward, sir.
Gonzalez, I just wanted to say, I believe if staff feels it's important, or any one commissioner ahead of time thinks it's important that council be present, that depending on what's before us, I think it's important that Scott attend. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Commissioners, any other comment?
Yes, Madam Chair, this is Commissioner McCowan. I would agree, except I think we should be strategic about it. So we may be at that point now where, unless any of us have questions of Mr. Brown, he could be excused. I don't think he would be needed for the balance of the meeting. And likewise, so looking forward to the public hearing for the Mendocino Community Services District, perhaps we would have him available where we can bring him in just for that item, but he wouldn't need to attend the entire meeting. That way we have the legal counsel when needed, but we're not paying him for the full meeting.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner, and I think staff will take, has taken that under consideration. So to conclude this item, we do need to give direction to staff. Is there a commissioner that would like to state it, please? And then we'll see if there's a consensus of the board. Commissioners?
Well, Madam Chair, I would be willing to go forward with the recommended action with additional direction that a further amendment be pursued to the contract to allow Mr. Brown to charge for time spent on special projects, that our fee schedule be updated, and that a review conducted of our standard fee agreement to ensure consistency and clarity.
Thank you, Commissioner.
The only clarification, this is Mr. Brown. We already have the ability to charge for special projects. What this would do is authorize me to charge for non-special projects.
As MSRs and SOIs.
And also, we would address the SOI issue that has been raised to make sure that we want to make sure the fee schedule, my contract, and the other policies are all consistent to achieve the direction you've given us.
That's the intent of the motion.
Thank you. Do you want to make it a motion, sir? Commissioner McCowan, do you want to make that a motion?
Well, I thought I did.
I'll second
Okay.
the motion. This is Commissioner Ignacio.
Hey, staff, do you have that recorded?
Yes, we have that recorded.
Okay, thank you. We'll do a roll call vote.
Okay. Commissioner Gonzalez,
Yes.
Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
Commissioner Ignacio,
Yes.
Commissioner Orth,
Yes.
Commissioner McCowan,
Yes.
Commissioner Huff,
Yes.
Chair Brown.
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously.
Okay.
Madam Chair, Commissioner
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
for the benefit of the treasurer, I'd like to get copies of the special project billings from for the attorney, to the attorney, or from the attorney, excuse me, to the applicants so we can keep track of them.
Okay. I think
Thank
that is understood. Correct, Ms. Hinman?
That's correct. We will send those out after the meeting.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Mr. Brown, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. And I will be working with the staff to answer your questions.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much. Okay, moving forward, we're going to 6B, and this would be consideration of cancellation of the July 6, 2020 regular meeting of the commission. Staff, please do a presentation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. With approval of the May claims, we have very limited budget to finish the fiscal year. So primarily because staff has spent a considerable amount of time revising operations to adjust to the COVID emergency conditions and has resulted in additional burden to our basic services budget. So as a cost savings measure, staff is recommending canceling the July 6th meeting, which would make our next regular meeting of the commission August 3rd. Staff will continue to make progress on our work plan and in processing applications and ensure that the necessary operations of the office will continue through the end of the fiscal year, of course. I don't have any further presentation on that, but I'm happy to answer questions.
Okay, we will go to the commissioners for questions or comment. Commissioner Orth?
I support canceling the meeting.
Commissioner Ward?
I have no objection.
Commissioner Gonzalez?
I support canceling the meeting also.
Commissioner Huff?
I'll support canceling the meeting. It looks like they covered that they will be, what is it? Even so, minimum office operations or response to public inquiries will result in exceeding the budget. So yeah, let's cancel.
Thank you, Commissioner Huff. Commissioner Ignacio?
I support staff's recommendation. Thank you.
Commissioner McCowan?
Agree.
And not for a vote, but comment, Alternate Commissioner Winkle?
I agree.
Thank you, sir, and I also do. Did I ask for public comment? I guess I should have.
We've received no public comment on this item, and there's no one waiting to speak to this item.
Okay, at least the question's been asked. Okay, I think staff, you have direction on this?
Yes,
that
thank you.
We'll be canceling the meeting, and it would be very appropriate for us to let all those involved, including public commenters, for the community service district, because it will be a public hearing, to know it will not occur until August 6th.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now we're on to item number 7, information and report items. Ms. Hinman, we're on 7A, work plan, current and future proposals.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Ignacio.
Yes, sir.
Because that was a possible action item, is it necessary, because it's a cancellation of a meeting, that it needs to result in a vote?
Let me ask staff.
We have this just as direction to staff. We could take a vote if you feel that's the appropriate way to go.
I just want to make sure that we're covering what's necessary with regards to the actions this commission takes. I'll defer to the XO on her recommendation.
Madam Chair.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner McCowan, I might add, I kind of had the same thought, and we did adopt our meeting schedule by formal action. So maybe it's cleanest if we do have just a quick motion to cancel July 6th.
So as chair, I heard a motion by Commissioner Ignacio and a second by Commissioner McCowan.
Agreed.
Any other comment, commissioners? Staff, please conduct a roll call vote.
Commissioner Huff,
Yes.
Commissioner Orth,
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez,
Yes.
Commissioner Ignacio,
Yes.
Commissioner McCowan,
Yes.
Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
Chair Brown.
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Okay, it's official. And potentially legal, so I appreciate the two commissioners, not potentially legal, going the other way it may not have been. So I just appreciate both of you bringing that up. Moving on to item number 7, we have 7A, work plan, current and future proposals. Ms. Hinman, would you like to do your report?
Thank you. We have 3 active proposals. We are still working through the final steps for the waiver application for detachment. As by way of update, the fees have been paid for staff time, and we are waiting for fees for our legal services, as well as the check that will go to the Board of Equalization. They are submitting the final maps for our use, and then we can complete the certificate of completion on that application and finalize that project. For the Moores annexation to Irish Beach Water District, I did have a conference call with the Irish Beach Water District and their attorney about that application, and believe that we are, at this time, we're waiting for correspondence from the district, but that application will not be moving forward at this time. The City of Ukiah detachment of Ukiah Valley Sanitation District served areas. The city did submit additional application materials, which staff has reviewed and gone over a number of questions with our legal counsel on. We did send a letter to the city indicating that we would need a new application submittal. There were some deficiencies due to the lapse in time since the original application request. We are working with the city on that, and we have also recommended that the application be concurrently processed with some of the sphere of influence updates, particularly with Ukiah Valley Sanitation District. So that information has been provided to the city, and we are waiting for next steps on that. There are currently no other applications on hold. No change to the future proposals. On the work plan, we have received the full response to our request for information from the Ukiah Valley Sanitation District. So we are moving forward on preparing that administrative draft as well as the Covelo Community Service District draft. We will be scheduling the Mendocino City Community Services District MSR and sphere update for our August 3rd meeting. And the County Service Area number 3 MSR and sphere update has been put on hold for the time being to allow the county some time because of the COVID emergency. I don't have any further updates on our work plan or applications, but I'd be happy to answer questions.
Commissioners, questions? We'll go through the roll. Commissioner Orth.
No questions. Nice report. Onward.
Great. Commissioner Ward.
No, nothing at this time, thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner Gonzalez.
Nothing.
Commissioner Huff.
No comments.
Commissioner Ignacio.
Great report. No comments.
Commissioner McCowan.
No comment.
Okay, alternate Commissioner Winkle.
No comment.
Thank you, sir. And Chair Brown, no. So moving on. 7B, it appears no correspondence has been received. Is that correct, staff?
That is correct.
Okay. Moving on to item 7C, it's our executive officers report. Please go forward, Ms. Hinman.
The only item I have to report on is that the Ukiah Valley Conference Center remains closed to the general public. Earlier this month, they did open to take client bookings, but our office space does remain closed to the public. We are continuing to visit the office multiple times a week to get the mail and respond to information needs, but otherwise we will be continuing to remote work this time.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone questions? Anyone from the public? This is only reports, but hearing none. Committee reports. Ms. Hinman?
We've had no committee meetings in the past month.
Okay. Moving on to 7E, commissioners' reports, comments, or questions. So I'm going to invite commissioners in turn to see if they have any comments or questions. I do have one myself, and Ms. Hinman, will you please, after the meeting, arrange with Commissioner McCowan how we can get an original signature on the checks that need to be signed? And then if you send me a listing, I will call into Savings Bank and make sure that it's recorded for the second signature.
Thank you.
Other commissioners, comments or questions?
I have a comment.
Commissioner Orth.
Yes, MCOG will meet at 1:30 today, and in their Zoom meeting will be a presentation on the fire evacuation planning grant presentation early in the meeting. I just wanted to note that for anyone who might be interested in watching.
So where would be the link?
On the MCOG web page.
Okay.
I believe, I hope.
Thank you. Commissioners, anyone else?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Ward.
Yes, sir.
I want to apologize. I had the wrong meeting ID number when I came in this morning. I was late.
I'm sorry.
I did not hear the approval of the regular minutes and the claims. Were there any changes?
I believe there was one by Commissioner Ignacio, but staff, can you respond?
Or I can respond. It was on page 5, Jerry. There was a typographical error at the bottom resulting from the straw polling on the budget. And instead of 7 to 3, it should read 6 to 3. That was the only change initiated.
Okay, thank you. Madam Chair, I would have brought up a comment or a change in the minutes on page 11. On the top of the page, the second sentence says, E.O. Hinman noted that alternate Commissioner Winkle joined the meeting at 9:30 a.m. and briefly introduced the item. I don't believe the Mr. Winkle introduced the item. That was just a clarification. No big deal, but that was the only thing I was going to bring up. The claims are all good, and I would not add any changes to the claim.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Vice Commissioner Gonzalez, I just wanted to thank staff for doing a great job considering issues in COVID.
Yes, this is a whole new world we're living in today.
Thank you, that's much appreciated.
So hearing no more, we're going to move on to item 7F.
Madam Chair, before we go forward, I also want to thank you too, because I'm not sure if you're watching the videos as we're talking. You appear to be on the phone, and I think you're running an excellent meeting, and I appreciate all the effort you're making.
Well, thank you. For the next meeting, if we are not meeting in person, I'm going to try to be on the video. Just ordered a new computer to do so. But thank you very much. Appreciate it.
And Madam Chair, I would like to second those comments also.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
And I triple them.
Appreciate it. Except I didn't tell you how many times I left myself on mute as we were going through the meeting today. I didn't realize until I didn't get anybody's attention. So moving forward, LAFCo business and the legislative report. Ms. Hinman?
Thank you. There's a brief update on page 264 of your agenda packet. As far as LAFCo updates, they are working on the logistics and meeting preparations for the LAFCo conference in October. They continue the weekly report Zoom meetings for executive officers, and I believe they are also doing one for clerks and analysts. We participate as seems appropriate based on their agenda for the week. And that's all the updates we have at this time.
Okay, I want to thank everybody for being here today. It's been an excellent meeting as far as getting through it, and I appreciate that. I'm going to adjourn and just recognize the fact that our next meeting will be held August 3rd, 2020, and location to be determined upon where we're at with COVID-19. Thank you, everyone. Have a good rest of the day.
Thank you.
Thank you.